My friends, Pop Culture Breakdown returns tonight at 7 Central, 5 Pacific, as we review the last 2 disgraceful episodes of The Acolyte and Doctor Who, and take turns whacking at those crap-filled piñatas and answering your questions. Last week, we were forced to cancel the show after learning, mere hours before we went on the air, that our good friend and fellow YouTuber Mike Alonso, aka Clobberantime, had passed away, and we just didn't have the heart to continue with the show. But that said, we are back now with a vengeance tonight live at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and we hope you will join us. Thanks for watching, and now, on with the video. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, broadcasting from my hidden base at the center of the Earth, and I stand before you today with some information from behind the magic curtain, leaked by sources claiming knowledge of what the hell went wrong on the Acolyte, how it got so horribly screwed up, and some possible fallout that may impact the future of Star Wars. I say future, ironically, because personally, I don't believe that Star Wars has any future at all. After a string of horrendous failures like Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, the Acolyte is the dingleberry on top of the Star Wars shit sundae. The fans are gone, the enthusiasm is dead, the lore is shattered, and Star Wars is now a trans franchise. Kathleen Kennedy has operated on the patient, whacked off its lightsaber, extracted the Y midichlorians, and turned it from a male franchise into a female franchise, and as a result, no one is happy, not the men or the women. The Acolyte is such a disgraceful failure, there's no easy way to cover it up. It's sitting at about 14% audience approval on Rotten Tomatoes. Even the Disney shilly critics have lowered their rating a bit at the risk of being called sexists and bigots and homophobes. Yawn. The same old tricks, going all the way back to Ghostbusters 2016. Just stack your movies with women, gays, people of color, and when it sucks the barnacles off the hull of the SS shit show, accuse people who say it sucks of being prejudiced, bigoted, and so on. Hey, newsflash, Disney, that crap no longer works. None of us are gaslit by it. No one is silenced by it. We all know the score. Hollywood took its best shot at brainwashing society, and you blew it. Now you just look ridiculous singing the same old song, because we can see for ourselves how dead Star Wars is just by watching your shows. Nevertheless, Disney seemingly is finally recognizing the undeniable fact that Star Wars is an ex-parrot. And with the Acolyte, we can plainly see that Leslie Headland, Dave Filoni, and Kathleen Kennedy have nailed it to the perch. Disney is now allegedly considering changes behind the scenes, and I'll share what I've been told about those alleged changes, even though I'm personally extremely skeptical about them, and firmly believe now that Star Wars is beyond redemption.
Abandon hope, all ye who subscribe to Disney+. It's a girl world after all, and Star Wars is now riddled with witches, girl bosses, Disney princesses, and threads. Anyone with testosterone, move along, move along. There's nothing to see here.
And yet, according to my spies, Disney is scrambling behind the scenes to administer antibiotics to the corpse. This really is sad or hilarious, depending on your point of view, as Obi-Wan once said. At this point, I must state that what I'm about to share with you is information provided to my Hollywood spies by sources claiming knowledge of the situation, but since I cannot personally confirm any of this, I'm presenting it as unverified rumor, and I ask you to please take it with a grain of salt. Here's what my spies told me about how the Acolyte got so fucked up. Quote, "Okay, let's start at the beginning. The Acolyte. We have confirmed that this show was completed and was 100% ready for prime time at least a year and a half ago. Due to the very poor reception of test screenings, the Acolyte went into reshoots, and it was 30 to 40% reshot at that time. Allegedly, after these reshoots, the test screenings were even worse than before. The Acolyte then was rewritten with the help of Dave Filoni. Allegedly, this is where and when the witches were added, unquote.
Wait just a thread pulling minute, Doomcock. Your spies are saying it was Dave Filoni who added the witches? Seriously?
Yeah, well, that's what my spies are telling me. It makes a certain amount of sense because Dave Filoni is allegedly married to a witch himself. His wife is or was apparently a Wiccan, according to various rumors I've heard, although it's no rumor that Dave Filoni did introduce witches into Star Wars with the Witches of Dathomir in the Clone Wars, so it does make a certain amount of sense that he'd want to tie the Acolyte into the witches he created, cementing their place in Star Wars lore. My spies then continue, as I was saying, quote, "The Acolyte then was rewritten with the help of Dave Filoni. Allegedly, this is where and when the witches were added. And they 100% reshot the entire show with Dave looking over the shoulder of Leslie, and this is the Acolyte that is now on Disney+. Unfortunately, the test screening for this version of the Acolyte didn't do much better than the original version, so Disney decided to sit on it. Finally, they decided the Acolyte could be used. Disney couldn't write it off because Disney would be forced to compensate over half the cast members, which would have been expensive. So why did Disney decide to drop the Acolyte? Unquote. At this point, my spies add that this next part is the part they are not very sure of, so take this with an extra grain of salt as we are all skeptical about it. Nevertheless, I mention it because multiple sources have told this to my spies, so if nothing else, it is noteworthy. But again, remember, we are skeptical. They continue, quote, "According to our sources, this is where Kathleen Kennedy steps in to do everything in her power to make the Acolyte happen. Allegedly, KK made some kind of deal. If the Acolyte performed well, Dave Filoni would get free rein to do as he sees fit. On a side note, if this is true, it tends to confirm the allegation that Dave Filoni is now in bed with KK. Not literally, but symbolically, of course. These spies continue. If it performed poorly, Kathleen Kennedy would turn over Star Wars to whomever Bob wishes. Basically, she would walk away from Star Wars and retire. We don't really believe this, unquote."
Yeah, I don't believe that part either. I think that could be disinformation, but really, at this point, we're beyond giving a shit about KK. At this point, she's just kicking the corpse of the franchise she killed, so what does it matter if she and her swarm of locusts move on to another field or not? Still, one thing is clear. According to this rumor, Filoni is allegedly responsible for this version of the Acolyte. He rewrote it. He stuck the witches in there. He was supervising the reshoots of the reshoots of the reshoots, looking over Leslie's shoulder as she directed the power of one, the power of two, the power of many. He was one of the filters in place, and that garbage got by him. So what does that say about Dave Filoni? Why the fuck would Disney want to empower Filoni further after this disaster?
Well, that's a moot point, Harvey Cthulhu, because the Acolyte has not performed well. Not at all. Now, my spies are skeptical as you are, Harvey. I do know that KK was adamant that the Acolyte get made because it's her final stake through the heart of Star Wars. It's her final fuck you to Lucas, her last shot at corrupting Star Wars beyond all redemption, and it looks like she succeeded. She's pretty much done all the damage she can do by now, so stay or go, retire, jump into a volcano, no one gives a shit anymore. The people she's hurting now are Bob Iger and Disney investors, and they'll have to deal with all the financial losses she's responsible for. She's not hurting the fans anymore, gang. She's hurting Disney investors, and I just think, it's kind of funny. At this point, unless Jon Favreau works some kind of legit Vatican-certified miracle, Star Wars is broken beyond repair. All we can do now is watch it decompose along with Disney's profits. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.